Raw, real, absolute wisdom. In a nutshell, Raw aims to inspire you, for you to pass through your fears, celebrate your failures, and develop your own unique formula of success mastery. All of this done through real stories. Welcome to Raw. I am your host, Rohit Bassi. In this episode, you will be meeting Paul Micheal Gledhill. Paul is the co founder of Expert Learning, an online learning, talent, and performance consultancy based in Dubai and founded in April 2003. He runs his own CSR initiative to help people to develop themselves. This is called the Chief Learning Officer Middle East, or in short, CLOME. All in all, Paul is a very enthusiastic individual who's committed to promoting lifelong learning for people from different cultures within the Middle East and globally. Let's meet Paul and hear about his adventures, and he does have many. Great to have you here, Paul.
Welcome.
So, for the record, your full name for our audience
is Paul Micheal Gledhill. So, before maybe 10 years ago, it was always just Paul Gledhill, and then with the fact that everybody can sort of just Google you and find you, I realised that people were mistaking me for 3 or 4 other Paul Gledhills. So I decided that to give some uniqueness, to make sure it was the right person when they were looking for some of the businesses that I run. Then to use Paul Micheal Gledhill. So that's my name.
Wow. Now, you obviously are not from Dubai.
No.
Originally, where are you from?
So I'm from the UK. I'm from Yorkshire, in West Yorkshire, in England. Yeah.
And how long have you been here?
So this will be my 18th year, and Expert Learning, the business that I co-founded in 2003, was Sweet 16 on April the 1st. So we've been April Fools for 16 years. I'll probably not Fools. It's gone really well so far.
Now, I know in the business industry or in the business world, you're known for Expert Learning.
Yeah.
Then you've got CLOME, which is the CSR initiative, which I tend to get involved in.
Sure.
We'll come to that in a while.
Sure.
What I want our listeners to know is, before Expert Learning came into play,
Yes.
who really Paul is, where did he come from? Because there's some very interesting stories which you've told me before.
Sure.
Not necessarily you'll tell those stories to the listeners,
Right.
but let's go back into
Sure.
your past.
Sure. Well, look, I'm born out of West Yorkshire, as I said, as a miner son, so kind of pretty average education. And then I went into engineering, so I went to engineering college and electronic college, which kind of converted into more of the computer side and got into computer programming, more computer engineering, which is kind of ironic now that we're involved in software and kind of HR. But I guess really it's been the travel bug that hit me first. So practically as soon as I kind of came out of my engineering college, I went overseas. I worked in some fantastic countries for 13 years, some incredible places all around the world in travel and tourism. And I guess it was a really good grounding and really good kind of dealing with customers and hoteliers and the tourism boards. So yeah, it was a great kind of travel. And then I thought, well, that's the wanderlust over. I've done the travel. We go back to the UK to settle down. And I fell into training and development. So was working with local government as a business and training advisor. And for about 6 years, I was either sat in a training course or delivering a training course. So it was kind of later in life that I got the qualifications and certifications that I have now. And I thought it was interesting to get experience around kind of supervisory management as I went up the food chain in tourism, and then start to build that into more qualifications. So by the time, I came here, I felt quite confident with the qualifications and experiences that I had. But I had no intention of setting up in business. So that's been kind of a totally different kind of turning point in my life, and wouldn't take it back for the world. It's been a fantastic experience.
So you had no intentions to get into business. Why?
Well, I was, so as part of the business and training advisors work with kind of the government in the UK, I was, going to small, medium-sized businesses to help them with kind of training programs. We were giving grants and things like this to enable them to grow. And I just saw a lot of business people in dire straits, in stress. It seemed like, a very stressful and lonely place to be. And so, I mean, I didn't say, oh, I'd never do this, but I could tell that it was difficult. And I was there as, a helping hand for them, which was fantastic. And I enjoyed the time. But when I came to Dubai, and initially I was looking to work with the tourism board, because that would have lent itself towards the training experience, the travel experience. And while I was waiting for that position, I met an entrepreneur, and essentially decided to help them start up. And so as I was helping them to start up, I found that it was kind of more straightforward in Dubai. It was quicker. It didn't seem to have kind of the barriers that were within the UK. So it just seemed like a lot easier process than I imagined. And then by the time I got to meet my now business partner for the last 16 years, Janine, she had a clear vision of what she wanted to do. The e-learning side seemed to cross well into my experience in technology and experience from a HR training perspective. So it just came together nicely. So it was kind of from that we started up the business in 2003, and we've just grown exponentially since.
Interesting. Now, when you came over here, you came with your family? How
my
was
wife
it?
and I just came on holiday.
Okay.
We were...
she used to work with you at one time?
No, she worked with the Jumeirah Group.
Okay.
So she was she was looking at Emirates Towers. It was kind of newly built, and she said, I'd love to work in a hotel like that. And by coincidence spoke to somebody at our hotel that we were staying in, and she said, oh, I know somebody there, and maybe you need to give them a call. On the last day of our holiday, she was talking to a lady that was recruiting for corporate sales, and by coincidence her husband was from Leeds, which was close to me, and they seemed to get on well, and practically 3 months later we were living here. So
wow.
It was one of those things. I remember saying to her just before we left, well, my pension will kick in, I'm working for the government, we've got a house here, everything. And she said, is that it? And then we came to Dubai, and she went, no, this is it. Right. So that was it. And I think from there, it just seemed like the right time, the right place to be. And of course, in our industry, e-learning, it was brand new, so people didn't know, what e-learning was really, and what a learning management system did. And so there's a lot of education in the market. So it took us quite a while to build any revenues, to be sustainable. But it's paid through, and it was a good time. Now,
this was your first business?
Yes.
And I've seen it grow and grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
Through your life, not just business, but as life, because I tend to see business being a part of life, not two separate things.
Sure.
Any failures you've gone through, and when you've passed through them or overcome them, how did you do that?
Yeah, I think it's, I wouldn't say that there's anything that's been, oh my God, that was a disaster, and I'm down at the bottom now, and I really have. I don't think it was that, but I think there's lots of bumps in the road. I think just from the small things that you do, certainly from a business perspective, we were making decisions that may have gone down the wrong path. In the early days, actually, there were people that were interested in buying the business straight away, and we could have gone down that line, and I think that would have been a mistake. But I mean, just there are smaller things that happen, I think, that that impact some of the decisions that you make, and you simply make wrong decisions. I actually think that's a good thing. I think if it's plain sailing and you're lucky enough to get into a growth industry and it shoots off, I think you probably wouldn't have the same philosophy, or you wouldn't have the same presence, or you wouldn't have the same I don't know, it's just the hard knocks. So right through my life, there's plenty of them, from sport to injuries to lots of things that you think, well, you've got to bounce back from that. So I think but it's generalised. I can't think of one thing that was like, this is the difference between success and failure.
Now, if you look at what you've been doing from a business perspective, you've been doing for quite a while. At what age did you get into business? Because you didn't want to go into business, but you ended up in business. So what was that age where you entered into business?
Yeah, I was in my 40s and kind of late into business, late into fatherhood, late into a lot of things. But I think that sometimes, and look, I don't think there's a right age. You see kids at 12 years old now are entrepreneurs, and successful $1 billion kids now. So I don't think there's a right time, but for me it was kind of, the experience was useful. I think taking the falls, and perhaps that's why it wasn't as difficult, because if you've had the hard knocks working for somebody else, and you've made the mistakes for governmental or large private businesses, you've made the mistakes there. So hopefully you've learned enough from those. But I wouldn't say to an entrepreneur, wait till you're in your 40s, because it's a lot easier. I think it was just my pathway, and the timing seemed right. So so that's kind of how it went for me.
So it's interesting you say that, because one of the things which I see a number of people get into this, I want to be in my business, I want to be an entrepreneur, and I don't want to be in work, it sucks. Is there a right or wrong being in a job, being an entrepreneur?
I think it's it's just about what you're following your passion. I mean, if you're into creative, if you're into photography, it's no good working in HR if your real passion is photography. And a good example is a very good friend of mine that we worked together, and that was his passion, and he went through kind of training programs, and everything that he did was really about the photography, and yet his work was about HR consultancy. And you're kind of thinking, well, there's a disconnect. But the interesting thing is that if you're following a little bit of your passion or your hobby, and then you suddenly realize that could be monetized, then that's when it really fits. And I think and this guy's gone on, by the way, to be a super photographer with offices here and in New York, and he's done exceptionally well. But he was driven by passion. But you've got to kind of weigh that up. So is that going to be something that I can do and actually commercialize and make a living, versus is it a hobby alongside my work in the business? The other thing I'd say is that you have to have kind of an entrepreneurial spirit. So while you're working with an organisation, and I know this was the case with some of the organisations you worked with before you took off, is that you understood their business well. You understood what drove their sales, what drove what bottom line meant. So I think it's important to understand when you're working with somebody else, or you're working for somebody else, what their goals are, and then you align to that, and then you accelerate that growth. If you can do that within a company, then you could do that, outside for yourself.
Now, how many people in your organisation at the moment? We're in 2019.
Yeah. So we're 34, I think, at the moment. In fact, we just recruited 3 more people in Eastern Europe now. So that's a growth area. I think it's been interesting that for 12 years or so we were really focused on growing this region in the Middle East, and we were acquired in 2015, and then again. That acquisition went to another investment house in 2018, and that started to take us into, it took us into offices in India, and then now into kind of Eastern Europe. And again, a lot of these things, they're intentional, but the opportunities just arise at the right time. So that's now we're looking at more global growth. It's a consultancy and it's a technology business, so it's never that we're going to be 5,000 people. It's getting the right people, the right consultants, and then having the right software, and ensuring that the client gets a great experience from that. The customer is important to us.
Because what I've seen is across the globe, and I'm sure you've seen this as well. People usually associate growth with the number of employees. You're a fine example. You're running a very streamlined, efficient business, and so it's for the listeners to be aware. It's not the number of people out there you have in your organization, but how streamlined you can make. Sure. Was this intentional?
No, and I think it's I think we've always been quite organic on growth. So we've not really, looked for funding to say we need to be in Asia now and we need 50 people to do this. I don't think it's not been like that. I think we'll grow, more organically, and it'll be it's been regional, and then it's just kind of extended. So, no, I mean, I know that we have a growth mindset, and the people that we employ have that growth mindset. But it's not necessarily aggressive. And to your point about how many people that you actually have, there are multi-millionaires here in town that have a staff of 4 or 5. So it's it's horses for courses. It depends on your business, and it depends how you need people to support the business. So yeah, it's. Having said that, I still think we need more people as we go forward. Obviously, certainly as we're going into the territories globally, we will need more people. But the most important thing for me is getting the right people.
Now, being a leader of your organisation and also leading your life, leading your family, but I reckon I think it's your wife who.
I was going to say that's not far away.
Values. What are the values you live by?
Well, I think integrity is a given. I think that's really important. I think I have a kind of service mentality as well. So I know it's a bit cliche, but the customer's always right for me. The customer's always happy. One of the business values that comes from me as well is to make people that you do business with your best friends, because whether it's a strategic partner, whether it's a business partner, whether it's your customer, whether it's the people at work, if everybody becomes if it becomes a friendship, and I do know now, it's harder as you get more people to know everybody by name, but that open door idea and that value that says that we want to make these people close associates and friends, it just makes life easier. So they're some of the core values, and I guess in your personal life, if you take that into your business and then everybody can kind of replicate that behaviour, it just makes better teamwork, I think.
So you've got a young one.
Well, teenager now.
So yes, teenager now. What is that one thing or maybe two or three things you would say to her in regards to how to pass through any failures she will have, and how to focus towards getting her success?
I think that, again, I don't see a lot of difference in that. I mean, I think if you've got the underpinning values and the principles, you know, the characteristic of your children, they'll inherit those kind of set values. So for me, it's just more about support. You know, she fails, you know, doesn't have a good game at netball or something like that, then, you know, she doesn't have a good score. You know, it's really what do I need to do to support, you know, a better game and a better score. Not, you know, that was terrible. And I think the old style of, you know, my father was, when I was playing the sports, would be very critical of me. And to some extent that was good, because it, you know, it gave me the kind of hard knocks and you're not good enough, so you want to excel all the time. But in the other sense, it's you know, can you actually just go and support a person, you know, and get that balance between, here's a carrot, here's a stick. So that's kind of how I approach that.
And your wife is a high flyer. How do you manage that relationship?
Yeah, we're friends. We're best friends. So, you know, we will set aside time. We've got in our home, we have a not welcome mat. So we're not kind of, you know, we're not entertaining people all the time. So when it's home time, it's really home time. And I think that, you know, that balance is useful. And again, you know, both being in successful businesses is just, yeah, it's just part of life that we manage well. But when it's our time, it's our time. It's our family time. And yeah, we're not great entertainers. You know. This is why I'm so thankful to be invited to your home.
Thank you. Now, often I see in business, and not just in business, generally and in life, people are talking about doing. And my question arises now is, when will people learn to be in a state of being? Because when you're in that state of being, I've always seen that inspiration rises. What is your take on this? This is more looking at from people could label it as a spiritual thing, but it's not a spiritual thing for me. But what is your take on, is it all about just doing, or is it more?
I think the danger is just wanting. I think it's the, you know, the better house, the better car, the better wife, or whatever. I think that's the challenge. But I think I guess there's a spirituality around being present. That's all it is. It's just being here and being, you know, appreciative of what you have here, and being in this conversation, and then going outside and being into the next conversation, and then totally being quiet. And that's you know, I think people don't take time out for that. I think that's really important.
And for the people who are out there, people who are either in a job, want to be an entrepreneur, or are successful in whatever you're doing, what is that one thing you could tell them in order to be successful, have their own success formula? What is that one thing you could tell them?
Well, I don't think there is one. I think it's a bit like with health and fitness, you know, does not, you know, people will say, hey, you look great, especially if they know my age. Well, thanks. And what do you do? What's the one? Well, there's not one thing. I do everything. If somebody tells me you have to eat 1.5 walnuts every day, you know, and you'll be better, then I'll eat that. So, you know, I think you look to be an open learner all the time, but you're kind of constantly saying, well, how can I do this? How can I improve this? What do I have to do for health and fitness and wellness? So I think you've really got to be taking care of yourself, and then you'll take care of business, because if you're not looking kind of inwardly, then you'll never be on form, and you'll burn out because you'll want next. If I do that all year, I'll have that. If I really work hard for the next 3 years, I can go back and do this. You know, and this whole goal of retirement, you know, by the time I'm, you know, 50, I want to be finished and I want to have this and I want to sit on the beach. And really, you know, so if you're not kind of filling your mind and challenging yourself, challenging your brain, challenging your body, you know, that's, you know, and then appreciating what you've gotten right now, then you're on that slippery slope to, you know, what else? What next? What next?
So in other words, it's not about the hustle, it's about staying focused.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, again, I use the word presence. Be there. You know, it's no good us having a conversation now, me thinking about my next meeting or, you know, a next $1 million that's going to sign off. You know, you've got to be, what are we talking about? What are, you know, how are we engaged? What is this time, this moment? You know, why is it raining in Dubai?
That's a good question. Why is it raining in Dubai? Interesting you say that, you know. Am I thinking about my next meeting? Because you do have another meeting to go to. Before we close off, anything you would like the listeners to know from your years of experience about the different aspects of living your life? I'm not talking about just business, but living your life as a whole.
Well, you talk a lot about, you know, executive presence, and, you know, I think for that, just being, you know, as an executive from a business perspective, I think executive presence is really important about how you have the right attitude, you've built competencies, you've built skills. I think that's really important. And then the subset of that is asking the right questions and listening intently to people that you build around you. My preference as from a business perspective is work with a team of people, and you know, with the CLO, me, the Chief Learning Officer Middle East, is a non-profit. You know, we've got a great team of people that have got the same goal in mind. So I think it's important to build the right people around you, whether it's people in business, whether it's your family, you know, that support you, whether it's friends. I think that's really important. And then people talk about work-life balance, and I guess really, you know, that for me means that your work life needs to be something that you're passionate about, because you'll never get any balance if what you do is not what you want to do. So do what you want to do it with, you know, masses of passion, because that's where the energy comes from. Yeah. And then, you know, I think stay present and stay in the moment, and good things will happen.
Final note, what are you truly grateful for?
Everything that I have today. I think it's been, you know, a fantastic journey, but it really surmounts to the people around you, and you know, just, you know, I think every day you can find, you know, some reason to be happy about where I am, what I'm doing, regardless of success. You can take small things. Here's a lovely apple. I'm really grateful for this. Yeah. This is, I think, gratitude is a massive, massive part of how you feel self-fulfilled.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Truly appreciate you, and would love to have you again. And maybe next time we can have you and your wife.
Sure.
It would be great to have you both see the different perspectives. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Robert.